All right, so this is going to be my week one UFL power rankings. So let's get started here. We got 1 week left until the first games kick off. So I thought I should get these power rankings out now. Well, number 8 is going to be the Michigan Panthers. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably don't really know a whole lot about these teams. Maybe you do, but I'm going to talk about some of their best players here. For the Michigan Panthers, they got EJ Perry at quarterback. I believe he was their quarterback last year as well, so he's okay, I guess. They got a couple dudes that you might know. Running back Reggie Corbin and Matthew Colburn, who were really good last year, as well as Wes Hills at running back. They got Jordan Sewell and Devin Gray at receiver, who you might know. Most of you guys should know Breland Speaks for defensive edge rusher there. He's been in the NFL for a while, Breland Speaks, as well as Frank Ginda. He was one of the best USFL players last year. And they got safety Bryce Tornadon, who was one of the best players last year as well. But overall, their roster does not have as much talent as any of these other teams. So they're going to end up at number 8 for me. Number 7 is going to be the Memphis Showboats. So a lot of you guys probably don't know much about them either. They got the quarterback is Case Cookis, who's actually pretty good. He was in the Philadelphia Stars, I believe, last year. He was top 2 in passing yards and top 2 in passing touchdowns. So, he was a pretty good quarterback for him last year. They got Darius Victor at running back, who's pretty good. Jonathan Adams at wide receiver, who's really good as well. He was really good, like physical catch guy, but overall they don't have a whole bunch of talent. On the defensive side, they do got Vontae Diggs at linebacker, who many of you guys probably know. He played the NFL for a little bit. And they got Willie Henry, who played for 3 years in the NFL as well as a defensive lineman. But yeah, overall, they don't have a lot of talent compared to all these other teams. Number 6 is going to be the Houston Roughnecks. They are actually the Houston Gamblers, so it's technically the USFL team from last year with the XFL's branding because there were 2 Houston teams and the Roughnecks were more popular. But in order to keep it a split 4-4 teams from each league, it is technically the Houston Gamblers organization. But their quarterback is going to be Jarrett Garantino, who was on the Broncos. He's been on the Broncos practice squad recently. I don't think he's ever played in a real NFL game, but he's got some preseason work in. They also got running back Mark Thompson, who's really good. Isaiah Henney and Justin Hall, wide receiver, who are really good. They got plenty of good tight ends. And linemen as well. And their defense is actually pretty solid. They got Adam Rodriguez and Toby Johnson, as well as Chris Odom on the defensive line. Chris Odom was signed to the Cleveland Browns just last season. They also got Reuben Foster, a linebacker, who many of you guys probably know. He was in the NFL for a while as well. But yeah, their offensive side of the ball is lacking quite a bit. Their defense definitely is one of the better defenses in the league. Number 5 is going to be the San Antonio Brahmas. So the Brahmas, their quarterback is going to be Quentin Dormady. So he was the Orlando Guardians quarterback last year. He was actually a good quarterback. The Guardians were not good. They also do have Tom Flacco, Joe Flacco's brother, as a backup. So that's cool. They got Anthony McFarland at running back, who was in the NFL for 4 years on the Pittsburgh Steelers for a while. Probably know him. They got some good receivers, T.J. Vasher, Jontre Kirkland, Landon Akers, who are really good. They got a good tight end here, Cody Latimer. He's technically a tight end now, but he was a receiver in the NFL, and he was, probably the best receiver last year in the XFL, even though he was just a tight end. And they also got another tight end, Elise Mack, who was one of the best tight ends in the XFL as well. So their offensive weapons are doing pretty good for them. Their offensive line's really solid. They got Rashad Coward, who spent 5 years in the NFL, as well as Alex Millette. Defense, they got Jordan Williams at linebacker, who was the best XFL linebacker last season. They also got a lot of different corners that have NFL experience. Darius Phillips was in the NFL for 5 years, who they have. So they're actually a pretty solid team. I could see them making their way up into the top 3 here, but really when you only got 8 teams, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive league. Being at number 5 is technically below average, but there's only 8 teams, so what really is average with 8 teams? Number 4 is going to be the Arlington Renegades. So they actually won the XFL Championship last year. They have Louis Perez at quarterback, who led them to the title last year. He was also on the Rams, I believe, 2 years ago. He was on the Rams practice squad or whatever. He never got in games, but he was there. They also got Davion Smith at running back, who's pretty good. A couple receivers, Deontay Burnett, Tyler Vaughns. They got Caleb Van Der Esch, who was Leighton Van Der Esch for the Cowboys. He's his brother. He's a wide receiver for them. They got Sal Cannella, who was top 2 tight end in the league last year, with along with Cody Latimer. He actually was on the Green Bay Packers at one point too. Um, they also got a couple defensive guys that are pretty good. Vic Beasley, a linebacker, he was in the NFL for a minute, as well as Marquel Lee, who was in there for 4 years in the NFL. And they got Ajini Harris, who was on the he was in the NFL too, I believe. And they got Marquette King, who was a really good punter in the NFL for a while. And I also skipped over the fact that the Brahmas got the destroying, got kicker, who's probably going to be one of the more popular names of the UFL this season. Number 3 is going to be the DC Defenders. They're a really solid team. They got Jordan Tayamu at quarterback. He was the Offensive Player of the Year last year for the XFL. He was also was in the USFL 2 years ago, was in the XFL in 2020, has been on Kansas City Chiefs squad in between that time. So he's been, pretty prominent name in, in football, at least spring football recently. They also got a couple good receivers here. Brandon Smith, who was in the NFL for a while. Chris Rowlands in the NFL with Atlanta, and Kiki Kuti was on Houston for a while. He has 5 years of NFL experience. They also had Abram Smith at running back, but he did tear his ACL and is going to be out for the season, so that's going to hurt them quite a bit there. But their defense, they got some guys that were in the NFL. Davin Bellamy, I believe he was in the NFL for a while. TJ Barnes was in the NFL for 3 years at defensive lineman. They got plenty of good linebackers. Reggie Northrup was really good last year in the XFL. DeJuan Neal at corner was really good in the XFL, as well as Michael Joseph and Santos Ramirez, who were the number 1 corner and safety in the XFL. So their secondary should be pretty elite. Number 2 is going to be the Birmingham Stallions. They have won the USFL for the last 2 years now, actually. Been one of the best teams. They have Jamar Smith is currently leading their quarterback battle, but they still apparently have it up in the air between Jamar Smith, who led them to the title last year. They got Matt Corral, who was in the NFL for a minute out of Liberty. He was 3rd-round pick for Carolina, and now he's already out of the league. That was only like 2 or 3 years ago. He's already out of the league, and now here in the UFL. And they got Adrian Martinez, who was at Nebraska, transferred to K-State, and was at K-State when they won the Big 12 championship, but he wasn't playing because he was injured. But he did get drafted to the Detroit Lions, or at least picked up by the Detroit Lions, but ultimately never ended up making the roster, and now he's at Birmingham. So they got plenty of good quarterbacks there. They got a couple of good running backs. They got Zaquandre White from Miami. He was there for a while. Larry Roundtree was in the NFL for a while. And they got CJ Marable, who has been a really good running back here in the USFL. Plenty of good receivers. Victor Bolden, I believe, was in the NFL for a minute. He's been pretty good. Amari Rogers was in the NFL with Green Bay for a while. He's there. They got Jay Sternberger, who was an all-USFL tight end last year. He's pretty good. Their defense, they got some guys. They got Carlo Kemp, who was really good, defensive lineman. They got Carlos Davis, who has spent 3 years in the NFL. They got Scooby Wright at linebacker, who was in the NFL, who's in the NFL for a while. And then he's been really, really good for USFL Stallion for the last couple of years, as well as having DeMarcus Gates at linebacker. He's pretty solid as well. And then, we're going to get to the number 1 team here, which is going to be the St. Louis Battlehawks, who got A.J. McCarron at quarterback, who, obviously was good at Alabama and then was in the NFL with the Bengals for a while and actually, won the XFL MVP last year, went back to the Bengals, and then he asked to be cut from the Bengals just this past year, just like about a month ago. He asked to be cut from the Bengals so he could go back to the Battlehawks and actually play some football. So that's pretty cool. He's probably the most popular player in the league. Certainly has the biggest fan base in the league, probably him and Destroying, because Destroying, is popular from YouTube and stuff. But they got some good running backs. Max Borghi, one of the best running backs in the league. He looks like Christian McCaffrey. He's a dog. They got Hakeem Butler, who was the best receiver in the league last year in the XFL. They got Jaquar Pearson, who was the second best receiver in the XFL last year. He's going to be injured for a couple of games to start the year, but they got the top two receivers from the XFL last year, and Darius Shepard, who was the fourth best receiver in the XFL last year. So three of the top four receivers in the XFL from last year are on the same team now. So that should be pretty scary, as well as having the best quarterback. They got two all XFL offensive linemen in Steven Gonzalez and Mike Panasiuk. They got a couple of guys with NFL experience as well. Their D line, they got Austin Faoliu, who was with Seattle for 2 years. They also got Travis Feeney and Willie Harvey at linebacker, who were really good last year. They got Lavert Hill at corner, who was all XFL. Channing Stribling at corner, who was all USFL, and he was on the Washington Commanders for a minute in the NFL as well. So they got plenty of guys on their team with NFL experience and that have been the top of their game in spring football. So that's why they're going to be sitting here at number 1. And then, yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts and your own power rankings. I'll be trying to update these each week. So make sure to come back next week for an updated video.